All right, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Teardown. My name is Jeff Gluck. I'm along with Jordan Bianchi, who is already laughing for some reason. I don't know why. But it's a good it's a good day to be happy, Jordan, because we saw yet another great finish at Kansas Speedway. I'm here at Kansas right now. Just got done with the Chase Elliott news conference. Also heard from Jeff Gordon and Alan Gustafson after the race in the media center. And man, tell you what, Kansas seems to keep delivering, Jordan. Kansas Speedway, I think we have said it going in that for the next gen car, this may be the best track consistently. It's not always a great race, but consistently pretty darn good. And once again, I think if you were here today, you would have walked away satisfied with the show that you got to see, and obviously capped by a totally crazy finish. So what did you make of that?
I'm laughing because speaking of the show, some weeks we go into this and it's like, man, what are we going to talk about? Like, we're going to focus on the race. Well, there's nothing really to talk about the race. Let's talk about some other stuff. This is a week where it's like, there's too much show. We have too much to talk about. And there's so much to dissect from this race. On the track itself, the May race at Kansas was not good. It scored somewhere in the 50s in the good race poll. It was the antithesis of what we saw at Kansas. Last fall's race was okay, but it wasn't great. And we had the conversation in the spring has Kansas's time kind of subsided a little bit? What happened to this consistently being a banger that you have to tune in for, that kind of thing? Forget we said that. Forget it. Answer the question. Like, this was fantastic. I mean, this was what this car can do on an intermediate racetrack. We saw it again today. This is the first time we've had a race on a true intermediate race, a mile and a half racetrack since the 600 in May. And just like the 600 in May, this was a stellar race where we had passing, we had tire wear, we had unpredictability, we had multiple lanes, we had all of the things that we say we want and we don't always get. We got again today. This was a terrific race. Kansas again showed why it's, I don't know, Jeff, what would you say, top five? It's easily top five, like on tracks for me. And I think a really good case could be made that it could be number one.
Listen, I just think that you're not going to get it perfect every time. We know this car has posed challenges at short tracks and road courses, certainly. And at a lot of intermediate tracks, it's really great. But I think if you look at the mile and a half as a whole, if you're just looking at the whole big picture of mile and a half racing in NASCAR, I think this is it. I mean, I think this is the best place for it. It just suits this car so well. I asked Chase Elliott in the post-race news conference why exactly it's this track. What about it helps you guys put on such a good show here? And he basically laid it out and said, it's the way it's shaped, it's the multiple lanes on entry, and it's also the smooth surface. He said that combination of everything just sort of allows it it suits it as perfectly as we have in a track, I think is what he said. So, maybe that's oversimplifying it, but it just seems to work. And yeah, of course you had times today when the field got stretched out, when it looked difficult to pass. It is a mile and a half track. It's not, it's not a short track, but the fact is you could see people make their way through the field. You could see people track other guys down. And we got great racing at the end. Obviously the restarts are absolutely bonkers and insane. And I was satisfied certainly with what I got to see here today.
I don't know how you wouldn't be dissatisfied unless you were a Denny Hamlin or a Bubba Wallace fan or a Toyota fan and you had 5 Toyotas up front at the end there and your manufacturer doesn't win this race. This was what you want to see. This was a great race. And even when the field got strung out, you still had different elements. You still had strategy plays. You had guys on 2 tires or 4 tires. You had people who could pass. You didn't hear on the radio about oh, I can't pass. It's this, it's that. Like this was good. This was a really nice, refreshing race. And again, 3 races in a row now. I think NASCAR's had a very strong race, and this playoff continues to deliver at least these last 3 weeks.
Well, I'll say also, I was a little bit worried about this race today because I feel like we've seen this car perform best when it's a little bit cooler out. It was hot here today. I mean, it was hot. I had to tweet up, not to be gross, but like I was like sweating through my shirt. It was like a summer day. No, really though. Like I think it was like 86 or something. I mean, it was not even like close to fall. It was hot. It was like summer. So, I was worried about the track being too slick and the cars being, more separated and strung out. But again, we were able to see a pretty good show. Now, you mentioned though, you wouldn't be happy if you were a Toyota fan. And no. I think that Toyota, what we saw with Toyota was one of the great, they are going to be kicking themselves more over this race than any in recent memory, certainly, because they absolutely had this and completely let it get away. They lined up in overtime 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They had the top 5 cars in overtime on a day they completely dominated. Denny Hamlin, 159 laps led. Christopher Bell, 43 laps led. Chase Briscoe, Bubba Wallace, both in double digits. And they let it get away. They let the guy who was technically starting 8th and actually lined up 10th in a 2-lap overtime shootout win the race when they were all going for it. Now, the thing is, unlike last week, I don't think that you can say, oh, teammates in this situation. Now, I'm sure maybe some people will disagree and say, well, if this person had worked together with this person better. This to me seemed like, look, I mean, you have all these cars. There are 5, not only the top 5 cars, but all 5 playoff drivers trying to advance the next round. In addition, if Bubba Wallace wins this race, it dramatically changes the picture, the points picture for the Joe Gibbs Racing cars, none of who were locked in going into the Roval. I think it would have put Chase Briscoe at like +1 or something. He's +21 instead. Yeah. Hamlin and Bell still would have been in really good position, but a wreck at the Roval they would have been looking at being knocked out if Bubba wins. So you have that element of it. You have the element of they obviously just want to win, period. Want to win a race, get themselves locked in. Denny's going for 60. Reddick obviously is in a must-win just as much as Bubba is, so they're going for it. And so I just think you had this weird sort of, and maybe it's letting them off the hook too much because they choked it away or something. But I don't know exactly what you do differently. You can't coordinate this. Briscoe, I was talking to Briscoe afterwards, and he's talking about how, he'd make a move that he thought was the right move. Then somebody else, makes a move in front of you, takes away your line. Suddenly it's not the right move anymore. I watched some of the in-cars back. I mean, there's a hole there. It's closing. I don't know how you can't coordinate this kind of thing, except for the restart, the push itself. You say, okay, I need my teammate to give me a big push, right? Okay. That's obvious.
And we saw that.
But once you get going and you're fanning out all over the track, trying to block runs and trying to find clean air, am I letting them off too easy by saying, I don't know. It's more circumstantial than saying it's a total choke job. What do you think?
To me, it reminds me of the famous gif of Kevin from The Office walking in with a pot of chili, and he's spent all of this time making this beautiful pot of chili, walks in the office and spills it everywhere, and just like, oh my God, what did I do? This was Toyota today. They crafted these beautifully fast race cars. They did everything right. They've got 5 drivers up there, 2 of which, Reddick and Wallace, have not been good at Kansas in a few years, and they weren't coming in optimistic. Both of them were, I don't say they were must-win positions, but they were certainly kind of in must-win positions. And it looked like they were going to have a potential to get one of these guys in. Plus, you've got Bell, Briscoe, and Hamlin up there, and they're good on points. And it's like, okay, this is a great day. We maybe get 2311 car going forward. The Joe Gibbs Racing cars are in a great points day. this is awesome. We're going to have 4 Toyotas in a great spot to get to the semifinals. That's going to be 4 of 8. And on top of that, had Reddick or Wallace won this race, it bumps Joey Logano maybe out of this thing potentially. And what did we talk about last week? If Logano gets to Phoenix, you guys are doomed. That is a huge thing because then Logano is out of out of this, and they're going to the Roval where Penske has not been good at. They haven't been good at road courses. And yes, Logano could still theoretically point his way in, but there's no guarantees. This was a huge missed opportunity on a multitude of levels. One that could have potential long-term ramifications depending upon what happens these next few weeks and then even in the championship.
Well, obviously, one of the, there's a lot of layers here. One of them first will be Denny essentially putting the car he owns, Bubba Wallace, into the wall. And now Bubba is in a potential, pretty much must win. I talked to Reddick. Reddick is minus 29, and I asked Reddick if he thinks he's must win next week, and he said yes. So Bubba at minus 26. And look, is Bubba Wallace going to go win his first career road course at the Roval? Probably not. So was that the end of his playoffs right there at the hands of his team owner? However, there is the whole element of Denny Hamlin not having full power steering. Now, Chase Elliott points out in the post-race news conference, when people say they don't have power steering, we don't know to what degree. Like he said it's a little bit tricky to talk about. So we'll have to hear from Denny on actions detrimental in terms of how little power steering he had, because a lot of times we're told you can't even drive these cars without power steering. He made it to the end, and then he sort of seemingly came out of nowhere in overtime to be back up there. Maybe he was just totally doing it without power steering, and it was a Herculean effort. But either way, he's saying, hey, he got tight at the end there. He wasn't able to turn the car as much as he wanted to. Now you could argue, okay, should he not have even put himself in that position, right? Should he have let the 23 car, I don't think so.
And he's not thinking like that either. Like, he's not thinking team owner. And I give Denny credit for this because it would have been easy for a lot of people to have been like, hey, I'm in a great spot here points wise. I don't need to win per se. My guys that I own, they need that win. I'm going to kind of lay over for them or, not maybe go as hard. And he didn't. This was driver versus driver. This wasn't driver or car owner versus driver. And if anyone ever wants to accuse Denny of favoring his own team over the team he drives for, here's the evidence. Like that this answers it all. And this could potentially cost Denny significantly monetarily. Like,
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No. That's yeah. So yeah.
I spoke with Chris Gabehart briefly after the race. There was a bunch going on. I had to jump around, but I asked him about the situation with all the Toyotas up there and all that stuff. Chris Gabehart, of course, competition director for Joe Gibbs Racing. He said, it's lightning in a bottle, right? If the 23 wins, the point scenario is massively different for Denny and Joe Gibbs Racing because you have the 19, and where Denny's concerned, Denny the driver, Denny the person who's built his legacy at Joe Gibbs Racing. He owes it to Joe Gibbs Racing to get after it. I couldn't be more proud of him. I hate it for how the 23 ended up, but Denny's got to get after it to try to win the race, and that's what he did. Mm-hmm. So, again, I think it opens up such a big box of worms. Imagine if Denny had laid off there, all the controversy.
Oh, my goodness.
All this. Oh, it would be the
especially in the light of what happened last week and everything. Absolutely. Yeah. You wreck a Gibbs car one week, and then the next week you're letting a different organization win the
right.
Yeah, what do we do? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And obviously we know he wants to get 60 anyway, and it was right there. And Denny said afterwards he probably had maybe one of the best cars he's ever had in comparison to the competition. So I see that I'm probably missing something and letting Toyota in general and JGR in general off too easily by not saying, it was a total choke job. If you look at each individual,
it's hard not to say that though.
What, that it was a choke job?
Yeah, it is a choke.
Who choked?
I mean,
What? Okay, so what do you do differently? How do you not give
well, I
that one
mean,
away?
I don't know. I mean, you
Where
have
you
the
wait, hold on, back up. We just said that Denny shouldn't let Bubba win, so that Denny should race hard there, right? So do you go back where between Bubba and Bell?
You could do that. I
But
mean,
Bubba's trying to race his way into the next round, so you can't tell Bubba not to race hard. You can't tell.
Still can be, it's finding a way to not win or finding a way to lose. Taking victory out of the jaws of defeat. Is that the right thing? I mean, they still should have won this race. Like they still could have managed this race. And maybe you don't drive in as hard as you do if you're Denny Hamlin, because I don't want to slide up into this guy into turn 3, and I don't slide into the 23, because if I do that, I'm opening up the bottom.
So you're saying, okay, so you're saying he should have given him more room and backed off.
You could say that, but then
you said earlier that he shouldn't have done that. That he should have raced for it, and that
but you can race hard. You can still race really hard and go for the win without saying I'm not going to push it so far or I'm going to slide up the track. I mean, there's that door that opens up. But when you have 5 guys up there in the top 8 and you're controlling this race and you've been fast all day, it's hard not to feel like this race slipped away from you.
I agree it slipped away. I agree. It looks like they completely gave it to somebody else, another manufacturer, another team, another competitor. But again, I'm asking, who does it fall under, or what do you do differently to avoid this from happening? I'm not sure, because again, you look at it from each individual, all 5 of those different drivers' views, go to their in-cars or go to whatever. What should they have done? They all have to win for themselves. This wasn't stage 2 at New Hampshire.
No, I get
this
that.
was for the win, in a playoff race.
I know, yeah.
So I don't know. But it certainly does feel like they completely gave it away, and we'll regret it for a long time. I just don't know how
they could, yeah.
It's maybe one of those things where it's like, this is a good problem to have or something. Like, we had 5 drivers who could have won and they all went for it. And the way it got jumbled up and chaotic.
I'll tell you a way. Looking at this, I will tell you a way they maybe gave this away. Or if we're looking at one isolated thing, it was on pit road. Denny Hamlin fell from the lead to 6th. He lost 6 spots he lost 5 or 6 spots on pit road. He lost control of that race then, in a race that he had the fastest car. He doesn't lose the control of this race, and he restarts on the front row. This could be a different ball game, because then he opens up the possibility of getting a good restart and getting in clean air. And then it's really hard to pass Denny Hamlin. And you know how hard it is to pass Denny Hamlin in this situation. And then he doesn't have to drive like he did in that final corner. So I guess if you're looking if you want to pinpoint something where this race got away from them, it was on pit road, which, let's not forget, by the way, this is because of a penalty that this team had a few weeks ago, where they had a wheel that came off the car, and now they lost 2 of their crew members. And so if you want to pinpoint something that could have been the issue, that this is the moment where it got away, this opened up the door, because Hamlin lost control of the race. He's on his back foot. Now he's having to play catch up.
Yes, I was absolutely going to bring this up. I think you could make the argument that this race was potentially lost at Bristol for Denny Hamlin's team. Because we saw, and it looked like, hey, they were doing pretty well for a while today, but he has a backup Jackman, and the Jackman made a mistake on the last stop, and he was going to come out with the lead. They did a 2-tire call, and they took a two-tire call from the lead and came out 7th. And then they got up to 6th because Ryan Blaney had a penalty. But like, that is ouch, right? Like, I mean, you can't, and plus when he didn't have power steering as well, when you get back in the field, it's amazing he got back up there, and was even had a shot at it. But I think you could absolutely make the argument that Bristol doomed them. What can you do? I mean, from a driving standpoint, you just got to shrug your shoulders, I guess. But I will say this, Jordan, before we move on to the other drivers, because it's going to get lost. It's probably going to get overlooked, even though the next mile-and-a-half race is in 2 weeks. But Toyota absolutely owned this race and
100%.
dominated this race. They look tremendous right? So, I mean, yeah, you're going to say, oh, a Hendrick driver won, but
You got to look deeper than the box score.
Yeah, we're about to go to Vegas the week after the Roval, and Toyota is going to be fearsome. So, man, I mean, they looked. Of course, last week we're talking about how on the 1 mile flat tracks, which is of course what decide this championship, the flat tracks, that it's Penske, but everywhere else in the playoffs so far, it's been Toyota, and Hendrick's got to be elated that they came away with one, because they've, as Jeff Gordon said, they've been on their heels. But man, this was another strong Toyota day, and if you just, aside from New Hampshire, it's been all Toyota in these playoffs, and we're halfway through the playoffs now. 4 out of 5 races.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Hendrick Motorsports, yes, it's nice to get to W. Yes, it's good to see that the 9 and the 5 had speed at times, and that's good. But the 24 struggled most of the day. They fought back and at least salvaged the day. The 48 was MIA. You have to be a little bit of concern because the 1.5 mile racetrack seem like they favor JGR, if not Toyota, as a whole. We know what Penske is at. They're on the 1.5 mile. They're the flat track. So Martinsville and Phoenix. I guess if you're Hendrick, you can maybe hang your hat on the fact that, hey, we won the Daytona 500 twice this year. And, we're going to be good at Talladega, and that's good. That's great. But so is Ford, and they've got great teamwork, and the Penske cars are so good there. And that's a really hard thing to hold your hat on at Talladega because of the circumstances there, where there's a lot of things out of your control. So it's hard. I guess if I'm Hendrick Motorsports, the one thing I'm really elated about is the fact that the 9 team came to play all weekend. It's exactly what we talked about last week on this show, Jeff. When they don't qualify, they put themselves in a disadvantage at the start of a race, and they cost themselves stage points. When they qualify well, it turns around your entire race. Today's another example of how that is. Much like Dover earlier in the year, Chase Elliott qualified well. He got stage points in stage 1. He got stage points in stage 2. He got 15 points today. It wasn't having to play catch up. It wasn't having to figure out how to manage track position and work your way up there. They never really were out of it because they started the race in it. And it shows you that if this team can qualify well, they can run in consistently up front and be a championship contender. Now the question is, can you do that every single week? Why are you smiling?
Because one of the comments on the YouTube live stream, you have a big collar today, and somebody said, will the dude on the right bite anyone with his collar because he looked like Dracula?
Well, that's mean. This is a stylish sweater. Like, I mean, if I'm supposed to put it down, it looks silly.
I shouldn't read the comments during the show. I'm sorry. I was just seeing what people were saying about your comments. By the way, they are also saying that you said that Hendrick won the Daytona 500 twice this year, apparently.
Oh, I'm sorry. William Byron's won the Daytona 500 consecutive years. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. I knew what you meant, but
yeah,
the commenters were lighting up. Anyway, yes, your point is well taken about Chase Elliott. He said after Dover, when he was awarded the pole, where he got the pole, I think he was like, this just shows what the options that open up for you when you qualify well. And he said the same thing today, right? Like, you get save points, your strategy options open up. And I think too, like, I know Chase Elliott fans are going to be like, they were in my mentions. They were so ready to pounce on Alan Gustafson when he took 4 tires again today. And it didn't look like it was going to work out, because they got an immediate caution sort of again. And it was like, man, now he doesn't have enough laps to get up there with his fresh tires. And I asked both Alan and Chase about it afterwards, and they're like, yeah, that's what we thought. But Chase said that once he got his tires kind of cleaned off the last lap of the race, he felt he had an advantage. And the 4 tires, Alan Gustafson, folks, makes the winning pit call by taking 4 tires. He was the first off pit road with 4. And he said afterwards, I did that because I knew we weren't as good as the cars ahead of us, and I needed to have an advantage to give ourselves a shot. He said he and Jeff Gordon both said they didn't think that Chase was going to win with the call, but they were trying to give themselves the best chance. That's what he did, and he won. So,
will Alan Gustafson get his just due from Chase Elliott fans? I know the answer to this question, but
obviously not. But I'm sort of again labeled as like the Alan Gustafson apologist. I'm just saying he made the winning pick call. That's all.
When's the fan club meeting?
The Alan Gustafson fan club meeting? Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't know. But anyway, it wasn't such a clean day for all of Hendrick Motorsports. Kyle Larson had speed at times, but then like he had a couple bad restarts and he seemed to lose track. He ended up finishing 6th. Okay, fine. But like Kyle Larson absolutely dominated this race in May. He led 1 lap today.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was a bad day for them, but I still don't think we're seeing the 5 team that we're used to seeing.
Oh no,
by any stretch. So
no,
I still don't know what to make of them.
I mean, it's right there. They finished 2nd in stage 2. I think they were top 3 or 4 in stage. They finished 3rd in stage 2. So it's like they're right there and you can like see it. It's like, man, they're just right there, but there's just something off. Like they don't have that same speed in the race car. They're just not to that level they're used to. I keep waiting for them to break out. I thought it was going to happen at Darlington. It didn't happen. We saw flashes of it at Gateway at times. We've seen glimpses of it elsewhere. It just has not materialized into this full race. And it's now, last time Kyle Larson won a race was, at Kansas back in the spring. And it feels like forever ago. I guess if you're a Kyle Larson fan, you hang your hat on the fact of like, you know what, we're not full song right now. This team isn't operating at the level we're used to it or its capabilities, but we're still grinding out finishes. We're still running well enough on a day where Toyota obviously had the speed to blow everybody's doors off. We still finished 2nd and 3rd in stages. We still left with a 6th place finish. You feel confident about that, but I don't feel like this team is. I thought they would be better at this point than they are, and there is something missing. We'll see if they can find it or not. Maybe it doesn't even matter. Maybe you can just keep doing this and grinding out finishes, and this is what you need to do to get to Phoenix. But I don't think so at this point. I feel like this team is going to end up, if they can't find that little missing piece, this is going to be what prevents Kyle Larson from getting to Phoenix and racing for a championship.
Yeah, and I mean, look, for Larson, at least you've had back-to-back top 10s now the last couple weeks.
Yeah,
but Kyle Larson doesn't have a top 5 finish since the Brickyard 400. Round 1 of the playoffs, he goes 19, 12, 32nd. And then he's gone 7th and 6th the last couple
I will
weeks.
say he did have top 5 speed. I mean, he has had top 5 speed at races. Gateway, he was running up there and then he got jammed up on a restart and got nose damage and fell back. Like they've had time. And today's another good example. Like he got in the wall at one point, I believe.
Yeah, but he said afterwards he didn't think that had anything to do with his.
But whatever it was, like he did fly back. He did slide back though at one point. It was like 10th or 11th. And so it's little things like that. It's putting together a complete race and not making any mistakes. And that there's just a little bit missing right now that is preventing them from being the team that they're capable of.
Well, Jordan, the biggest shocker of the whole day was William Byron. Really unbelievable to see them struggling this much. This was seemingly one of their worst races of the year. They were so far off, even their teammates. They were 23rd at one point, and then they had to make extended changes on pit road, which dropped them back to 27th. And he was just miserable, and
finishes 9th.
Amazingly enough, right? They rallied back, and he was the top running non Toyota at one point, and then they ended up getting shuffled on those overtime stuff to 9th. But that was unbelievable. I talked to him afterwards. He said, we obviously sucked there in the beginning. We missed something, made a bunch of changes, and then it suddenly came to life there in the 3rd stage. It was really confusing, honestly. We were so bad I couldn't carry any speed, and then it seemed to fix it. He said, I was competitive on the restart. I could carry speed at the end, but it was just a bummer the way it was early. The bright side is that we finished and we found something at the end. And I was like, hey, isn't it great though that, you guys were able to hang in there, and rally? And he's like, yeah, but it just sucks that we're kind of having to throw Hail Marys this time of year. So that's obviously not what they're looking for. Right. And, this is the guy that in the overall season, without resets, has scored the most points in the playoffs. And still today, because Blaney was going to pass Byron at one point in that, but Blaney with his speeding penalty and falling back to 24th, kind of missed out that opportunity because they were down to like 20 points separating them for the overall season most points scored. But I mean, you don't expect to see this out of the guy that's been doing this all year. We talked, well, is Byron going to turn it on for the playoffs? And, a lot of people felt like, hey, regular season champion going to be a lock for the Final Four. I don't have any Hendrick drivers in my Final Four. This is kind of one of the things I've been worried about, like just days like this, I guess.
I as you're sitting here talking about this, I'm wondering if we kind of glossed over William Byron this year and the fact that he hasn't been running as well as we maybe thought he was. Yes, he was leading the points, but just because you're running okay, and you're getting stage points and you're grinding out top 10 finishes doesn't mean you're running great. And it can mask a lot of things. And I crunched the numbers here really quick, Jeff. If you take Iowa out of the equation, in the last 16 races, this team has led 6 laps. In the last 16 races, this team has 3 top 5 finishes. Now, what we have talked about, though, is they have throughout the regular season, most of it, a large portion of it, they were running first in points. And a couple races, they fell down to second, but they were just doing enough. They were getting the stage points, or they're grinding out decent finishes to maintain that spot. That's great, but they weren't running excellent. And you look at laps led, you look at top 5 finishes, with the exception of Iowa, where they led 141 laps, this has not been a high-level team. It isn't operating to the other organization. So as you're sitting here talking about this, I'm like, I think we overlooked this a little bit, and we let the fact that he was leading the point standings kind of be our barometer of how we were going to assess it. When if you look at it quick, you look at a deeper study of it, this was not a team that was operating at a high level.
Well, I mean, they're still in good shape now. They're plus 40. Let's go through the standings really quick. Obviously, Elliott and Blaney have clinched with wins. Larson is plus 54, so he's a virtual lock now.
He's in.
Hamlin and Bell are plus 48 and plus 44. Byron is plus 40. So really none of those have to worry too much. But if there's a new winner that moves the cut line up, like Bubba was going to today, we see the impact that can have on points. Very quickly, it can become, okay, the line moved. And so suddenly if you have a bad day, like let's say Reddick wins next week. Because really, I mean, you're looking at the guys below. Let me finish. I guess Chase Briscoe's plus 21. Logano's plus 13. Then you have Chastain minus 13. Bubba minus 26. Reddick minus 29. And Hendrick minus 48. I could see Chastain overcoming a 13-point deficit perhaps, but nobody else is going to point their way, and I don't think. But if let's say Reddick wins, okay, so then Byron is only plus 19 on Briscoe, for instance, for the last spot. So would that be something where if somebody has a catastrophic day, wrecks and finishes last, do they get eliminated somehow? Does Chastain or Logano, are they able to outrun them? Like Logano, I mean, he would have had an even better day today if he had not got caught up in that wreck. He is so dangerous. He is unbelievably dangerous.
And that's why, like, Toyota had the opportunity to put Logano on his back foot on a track they do not do well at. And instead, he is now above the cut line by 13 points. Man, they could come to rue this. This could be where the championship flips in a big way.
I mean, it's the idea that you're going to give Logano a chance at Talladega, at Martinsville.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, again,
Dude,
I'm
Las
going to
Vegas last year, Jeff. Come on.
I know, but that was a long shot strategy to beat Bell
Still,
last year in Vegas.
I don't care, man. Like you just, this guy, you got an opportunity to put a stake through the vampire. You put a stake through the vampire, and
well, you would know based on your collar, apparently.
Okay, listen, it's not easy to look this good all the time. Okay, I'm sorry, y'all can't handle it. That's your fault.
Anyway, I just think the Roval next week is going to be so interesting because I don't think we've really ever had a situation where, like, okay, first of all, it's hard to get a huge points day there in general. But when you're talking about, oh, could somebody win, right? Like, you're like, oh, could Hendrick win? Sure, yeah, he's good on road courses. Could Reddick win? He's great on road courses. Bubba's gotten better. Chastain won at Coda.
Mm-hmm.
But SVG is such a heavy favorite. It's like, can you even go there thinking that you can beat? You not only have to, when you're weighing, you're going to have to beat SVG in the process.
I'm going to throw Allmendinger in there too. Like Allmendinger is really good there.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's in, and, you know, I look at like Logano's Roval stats and they're better than I thought they were. He's finished in the top 10, 6 of 7 starts there. But it hasn't been amazing. And then Penske has struggled on road courses. That's undebatable. And so you don't feel like Logano can go there and run. If you're Logano, you've got to play the stage game and you're going to go for points and you're going to put yourself in a position where somebody below you is going to have to really do something miraculous to beat you. If you're Wallace or Reddick, it's pretty clear cut in my mind. I'll throw Hendrick in there too. If you're one of those, you're Reddick, Wallace, Hendrick, like you're going for the win. Forget points. Like we're going for the win. That's our best chance. That's our only chance to get in. And it's going to be interesting. And the thing of it is you know, we always talk about the Roval as like, oh, it's crazy and this could happen and that happened. It's not like that much anymore. Like this race is kind of evolved and it's more, it plays out like a more traditional road course. Like you don't have the craziness and the big pileups and all of that stuff that really was associated with this race the first few years. It's much different now. You know, I'd like to go back to that. Can we please? Because president of Team Chaos would love that. But the Roval is kind of just pretty much a shrug your shoulders road course race now.
Well, there was that one moment last year in that new hairpin kind of thing that they put in with Reddick but I mean, you talk about Logano's stats at the Roval, so that made me look up Chastain's stats since they're going to be in theory racing each other. Chastain's only finished in the top 20 one time at the Roval. He finished 10th 2 years ago. So his stats aren't anything amazing either, although we see him run well at road courses, and certainly having SVG as a teammate, you would think would be really helpful, right? In terms of getting prepared and trying to get a good setup. So I wouldn't count Chastain out at all, but you know, if they're both going for stage points, you know, and both, you know, on the same type of plan there, it's tough to I mean, we'll see what happens, but but man, that Bubba win today would have thrown this into total. You talk about team chaos, man.
It would have made you vaulted him from last to in the playoffs. It sets up well because they're going to Las Vegas where he runs really well. We know he's good on super speedways. He's good at Martinsville. It's like, and I've been touting this team as one of those kind of dark horses. Like the path would have been there for him. And now it's challenging. I will say this about the Roval. This is Wallace's best road course, and he's much better on road courses in recent years than he has been. I don't know if that's going to materialize into a victory or not. I would be surprised. But, you know, stranger things have happened. Who knows?
So Bubba has he finished 6th at Darlington, 8th at Gateway, crashed at Bristol.
Was fast at Bristol too before he crashed.
Right. But he still left. Didn't he leave like plus 50 or something at
Yeah.
Bristol, or he made it easily.
Yeah.
Right. Even though he crashed, he made it easily. Then you have one bad day at Loudon, finished 26, comes back to finish 5th today, almost won the race. And now he's facing elimination in this weird system. You know, it's just such a odd, you know, we could have written a story after the first round of Bubba's having career playoffs.
I think I wrote that at Darlington, actually. I think I wrote that after Darlington of like, this guy, you know, he had a great day at Darlington. Like, basically, this team is a championship caliber. Like, I literally was asking people after the race at Darlington, like, can this team go and contend for the championship? And there was people that thought they could. I thought they could. And they picked a bad day to have a bad day. And it does show you the system being what the system is. Like, if you're going to put yourself in a hole, you're going to have to claw out of it and win a race. And it's the importance of winning is so significant. And look at what Ryan Blaney's win at New Hampshire last week was so important in the moment because of what it represented. But then because of the day he had today, it takes on even more importance. It's like, man, it's like, shit, if we wouldn't have won at New Hampshire, we would have been, we're in trouble here. But because you win, because it's so important, winning is a cure-all.
We talked about, you know, it's dangerous to let Joey Logano into the next round. What about Chase Elliott? Because here's a guy who we viewed as the number 3 Hendrick car for most of the year, because Byron and Larson were having such good years, and we overlooked Elliott, right? But man, couldn't you see him going to Talladega and winning to make the Final Four?
I mean, could he win at Talladega? Absolutely. I will say this, though, and I have to pop up the stat. Las Vegas is not a good track for him at all. I think it's one of his and
I don't think he's going to point his way in anyway. So, I think he's going to have to win one of the 3 races.
He could. I mean, he's good at Martinsville. I don't know if he's great at Martinsville, though. He was racing Blaney for the win last year. Though Blaney was far faster than him. Maybe. I mean, he could win. He could win at Talladega, but you could say that for any of the 8, honestly. I mean, any of the 8 that really get to that point. We know Hamlin's good there. We know the Penske cars are good there. Both the 2311 cars are good there. Chastain is good in these races. Like, I don't think there's anybody who's going to get to that point. You can't sit there and say, oh, they couldn't win Talladega. They're all, and it's not just because, oh, Talladega is a crapshoot, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, these guys are legitimately good super speedway racers. I mean, just talk about the guys we talked about, you know, the Hendrick cars. Maybe Larson's the exception in that, but even Larson has been much better in these races lately. He won a stage at Daytona. Like, all of these guys do a really good job of putting themselves up near the front in these races. Like, I think Talladega is going to be a fascinating race because of that.
Yeah, because it's sort of like, yes, you want to win, obviously, right? But what's your point situation? Like, if you leave Vegas and you're decent, do you really want to risk? Because you could, like, let's say you're running top 5 or top 10 Talladega late. You're like, I don't know. I mean, of course you'd want to win, but are you going to take some crazy chance to get up there? You take the points if you can, and just go on to Martinsville and be like, hey, I'll take being above the cut line going into Martinsville, right? So why would I throw away? Now, you can't always predict that, but I'm just saying in terms of throwing a crazy block or it's kind of the stuff it takes to win at Talladega. I don't know.
It's going to be fascinating. What happens at Las Vegas is going to dictate everything that you do at Talladega, and it's going to dramatically impact your level of desperation. If you go to Las Vegas and have a terrible day and you're in a points hole, you're like, we're going to have to go to Talladega and you're going to have to do a Brad Keselowski in 2014 and just control that race and do everything you can and will yourself to victory. But that could mean a lot of different things. And you could also see like a situation we saw with Denny Hamlin in 2016, where Denny is are the Gibbs cars, the 3 non-Denny Hamlin, because the other 3 Gibbs cars were all in a great points position. And they went to Talladega and they're like, we're just going to run at the back. Like, we're not going to do anything stupid. We're just going to manage this race. And we're going to points race our way into the next round. And it put Denny Hamlin in a spot where he had to race by himself with no teammates or anything. So, yeah, I mean, this is why crew chiefs, if you talk to crew chiefs in the garage, over the course of the last few weeks, few months, they would all tell you the most important race in the playoffs outside of Phoenix is Las Vegas. Because
of course.
it's just because of what it does for
That's
you.
how it's been, though.
But it has been, but it's always been that way. And the 22 team is a great example of that because it allows them to look ahead, right? And they have used that to their advantage. But even more so now because of Talladega, what comes after this, where like before you had a track after that. It's like, okay, well, if we don't have a great day or we have a miserable day there, at least we're going to go to Homestead and we have a shot there or whatever. Like now it's like, oh hell, now Talladega's out there. Leaving Las Vegas plus 30 points is a huge swing.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're not going to hear the same level of, oh my gosh, these guys are unbeatable kind of thing that what we heard last week at New Hampshire about Penske and the flat tracks, because they didn't even win the race today. But people should be saying that about the Toyotas after today going to Vegas. Absolutely. If that's such a key race, I mean, the whole competition, which is weird, like Hendrick Motorsports should be going to their shop and going, holy crap, guys, what are we going to do to beat these guys? Mm-hmm. Even though they just beat them.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where you look at the speed and I just don't know how you are going to overcome that at Vegas. But obviously things happen and crazy stuff happens, but yikes.
I picked Kyle Larson to win the championship. And it's really hard to count out Kyle Larson and Cliff Daniels, but we talked about at the beginning of the show. I'm looking at this going, I think a driver from Hendrick Motorsports winning the championship this year a lot's going to have to go their way because of Las Vegas, because of Martinsville, and because of Phoenix. Like there isn't a track the rest of the way where you're going to look at anybody from Hendrick Motorsports and say they're the favorite. There isn't. You go to Vegas, it's going to be Toyota. You go to Talladega, it's Talladega. I would put the Penske cars up there. And then you've got Phoenix and Martinsville, and it's going to be the 22 and the 12, especially the 12. There isn't a team right now from Hendrick Motorsports that scares me. That's a sad reality, even though Chase Elliott won today.
No, I agree. I mean, again, I think that first of all, if there's a Penske car, as we've been talking about, if there's a Penske car in the Final Four, they're going to be the favorite. Other than that, you look at Bell, Briscoe, Hamlin. But even if a Hendrick car is in there, I don't see it right now. I don't see them running that well on those type of tracks. So I don't know. We'll just see what happens. What do you want to talk about? I mean, there's a lot that happened in this race. The Zane Smith thing was pretty wild. Mm-hmm. It reminded me of the Casey Kane. Remember when Casey Kane in the Great Clips car went up and rode the fence way back in the day? I don't even know what year that was.
Yeah.
That's what reminded me of that. But then he barrel rolled down the front stretch afterwards. That was a bizarre incident. It is weird though, how the playoffs get totally changed and shaken up once again by drivers that are not in the playoffs causing cautions. I mean, whether it's, the first caution today was Cody Ware. You had Hocevar one.
That's racing,
Zane Smith one, I guess. But I mean, it literally changes the entire.
Sure, but non-championship contenders have knocked championship contenders out of a race. Everyone talks about the much ballyhooed 1992 finale at Atlanta. Davey Allison lost the championship because Ernie Irvin, who was nowhere even close to the championship, crashed into him. Like it's the unfortunate reality of
31 other races or whatever, how many there were that season.
Sure. And you've got other races within this round, and that's the way it is.
Two.
You still have other races. You still have opportunity,
So you're still going to defend this system, even though it's changing.
We're going to do this again because we can walk down this road if you want to.
Nah, I think we've talked enough about it. I mean, there's nothing new to say about it, but
we can talk about it if you want. But that's fine.
I think everybody's, you heard Christopher Bell talk about. Yeah, go ahead.
No, we're not going to dive into it, but I was talking to some people this week, and they had a really good point in that. No offense to the committee, which I think it is good that NASCAR put this committee together and solicit feedback and everything. you almost, if they're going to do that, you almost wish they would have kept it quiet and not publicized it, because this has really been a season, literally a week by week discussion about this. And it's almost like sucked the oxygen out of the room a little bit, where it's like playoff, instead of maybe, we talk about how this season maybe doesn't have the storylines or anything else. Well, it doesn't help too when that spotlight is on, like, oh, what are we going to do for next year? What's it going to be like going forward? If this is wrong and this is wrong, and it's just, right, wrong, or indifferent. If we wouldn't have been talking about the playoff every single week like we seemingly are, and everybody's on all the shows and on social media and everything else, maybe, I don't know, it would have been interesting to see what that would have been like.
I don't know if I agree with that, because I think that the topic of playoffs get talked about all the time.
Not like
whether
this,
there was
not
a
to
committee
this,
or not.
Not to this level where it's constant, continual. What are we going to do? What should the format be? What should be this? What's your format? Oh no, we're going to do this format. Oh no, they're talking about this. Like, yes, the playoffs in NASCAR are a conversation, nowhere near to this level that it has been this year on a regular basis.
I mean,
because think about every time you've had a committee meeting. And I'm not blaming you by any means, but like, think about every time there's been a committee meeting. It's like, oh, with this and that. Like, it has been an exhausting conversation, much more than it has been in recent years.
Well, there's only been 3 committee meetings.
Sure,
the first
but it's
one,
part of
nobody
it.
Even
Though.
talked
But
about
then,
it.
but even from that though, there's been conversations, and there's all these different tentacles that come from that, and so it has been a lot.
So because of 2 committee meetings that got talked about,
that's just the committee meetings, but it's part of it though. But people talk about the committee meetings, and then it's like, oh no, this said this, and then so said this, and then, oh no, I'm on the committee, and this is what we talked about. I mean, how many times this year? I mean, there was misrepresentation of what Mark Martin said, said in a committee meeting, and it's not just that, but it's every single week we ask drivers about this. What should the playoffs be? What should this be? Like, it is a lot. It is an exhausting topic that has overshadowed much else that has gone on this year. And I don't know if that's healthy for the sport.
You know what's not healthy for the sport, Jordan? When a round 2 playoff race gets 1.29 million viewers.
I agree on that.
So I think that, committee or not, when the playoff races are underperforming in the ratings, that's why people are going to say, is this working? Should we change? But that's where this is coming from.
I understand. I get that. But to sit there and say that we're going to fix the championship format, whether it's a season long thing or 26, whatever it's going to be, that's fine. That is not going to be a magic cure-all. Like, it's not going to be a wave of wand, be like, hey, we're going back to the season long championship. This is going to fix everything. The issues that facing NASCAR are multifaceted, and it's putting a Band-Aid by just changing the championship format is effectively just putting a Band-Aid on it. There are many other issues on this, and this isn't going to be said, oh man, we fixed the championship format. We're back, baby. We're back. No, like, it runs.
Nobody's saying that.
Really? Because you sure about that?
Nobody's saying that if you go to 36 races, that suddenly it's going to, in fact, I think there might be lower ratings for a couple years, potentially. There's a potential for it, but what it would do is build long-term, some investment back in creating the star power for the drivers, because that is the number one problem, in my opinion, with NASCAR. The number one thing holding NASCAR back is the lack of star power. So you've got to figure out how to create more star power. And you don't do that when you're talking about, oh, which 15th or 16th place guy in the standings is going to make the playoffs. Then at the end of round 1, you say, which 16th or 12th place guy is going to make it to round 2. That, you know what I'm saying? And you only talk about the drivers who are actually performing and winning races and running well only a few times a year at select points. Because what happens when one of the big name drivers now wins? We say, oh, they won, they're in, so we don't need to talk about them anymore. So Denny already won a race, so we don't even need to, we'll just talk about him in the playoff start. Except you don't talk about him in round 1 because you're like, well, he's good. and you don't talk about him round 2 because you're like, well, he's pretty much a lock. So you only talk about your stars for like 4 races a year when it gets down to the final 8 or something. I don't think that's a good way to build the recognition. And it's part of the reason. It's not the whole reason. There's 100 things that's gone into where NASCAR is today. But you have got to, there was these legendary names because they got talked about them all the time. Imagine if this season was down to Byron, Larson, Blaney, Hamlin, Elliott, and maybe Briscoe gets up there or something, right? And those 6 guys or whatever had been battling all year, back and forth, back and forth. Can anybody catch Byron? Oh, Byron's falling back. Elliott made this huge run in the points after Michigan, overcame a 100-point deficit, right, to take the points lead. Now he falls back. Oh, wait, Blaney's getting red hot. Now Blaney's coming up here, right? Oh, wait, Hamlin's not out of it yet. He missed a race and he's still in it. That focus of those rivalries and those back and forth, it's like, oh man, like what could be happening here? That's what you'd tune in every week. Not, oh man, this guy who hasn't won a race this year, is he going to make the playoffs or not? Or is he going to make round 2 or not? He doesn't really have a chance to win the championship. No, but let's put all the emphasis on him instead of talking about the drivers who actually are performing. So I think that is where, and I wrote about this week on The Athletic as part of the case for 36, basically. That is one of the things that has been talked about in the meetings of like, what is the problem? How can we address it with the point system? Does it fix it immediately? No, because you have to have a long-term investment in building those stars. So I think that's where that kind of help could come in. But will it help? I don't know, but I think it's worth trying. I think it would help more than things do now, where everybody gets to the end of the year and they go, I don't know, was that the real champion or not, kind of thing.
I mean, I think something needs to be, there's a lot of things that need to be done because this needs to point this sport in a better direction. But I disagree with the fact that you don't have those moments. I go back to 2020. Kevin Harvick and Denny Hamlin had toe-to-toe. Despite this format and everything else, every week it was like they were going head-to-head. Remember that showdown at Indianapolis because they were these two teams were dominant all year? And it was like, man, these are the two best. They separated themselves. You can still have that. Chase Elliott winning 3 of 5 races to win the championship in 2020. That is a great thing. It's NASCAR's most popular driver after years of playoff struggles, finally coming into his own. That's a big story. That's a big moment. That should help. And it didn't do anything. I don't know why. NASCAR's most popular driver having a playoff like he did, winning 3 of the last 5 races, and to win the championship should have galvanized the sport in a way. And I don't know why it didn't. You go to 2021. Larson.
Wait, stop. Hold on. You just brought up Kevin Harvick 2020 and the battle he was having. And then you say NASCAR's most popular driver won the championship that year. Why did that not galvanize everybody? Because Kevin Harvick, the guy that won 9 races that year, didn't even make the championship race.
Because they choked. They flat choked. They went to
in a 3-race round.
They flat choked. He couldn't pass Joey Logano at Kansas. They had an issue at Texas. It's not there. I mean, weird race, rain, whatever. Fine. Martinsville. All they had to do was go to Martinsville and finish somewhat decently. Like just minimum. They couldn't even do that. Like they choked. He won.
But you're asking why that didn't galvanize fans.
It should have though, because like think about Tony Stewart in 2011. Tony Stewart, that should have like lifted this. Tony Stewart wins 5 of 10 playoff races. One of the most popular drivers out there. He's trash talking his way to the championship, calling out Carl Edwards. Like that is better than almost anything else we've seen in modern NASCAR, with a few exceptions. And yet still then. And so it's just weird. Kyle Larson, and you can still do things in this sport. Kyle Larson wins 2021 has a dominant record year. Like it just, I think it goes, the issues with this sport go beyond just the playoff format. And there is much deeper thing. If this is going to change, if changing the playoff format is going to be the thing that shoots NASCAR up, great, fine. I don't think it is. The issues with this sport run much deeper than that. And there's many other things that should be the focus. And we just sat here and talked about playoffs. And we said we weren't going to.
Well, one thing that doesn't need to be the focus today is whether the racing's good or not, because I think this was a great race and it's time to vote for the good race poll. Now, you unfortunately have been victorious, according to Big Joe Wall, for to take a 2-race lead now, with 6 remaining, including today. And he says that your magic number is 3 to win the championship. Of course, you won't even agree on a
Oh
bet.
no, I mean, if you lose this thing, I am making you swim in Lake Lloyd. I am making you swim in Lake Lloyd.
It's not the bet. You want to agree to it right now?
I'm
Because you could
ready.
lose. You could lose.
I'm not
Yes,
swimming
you're
in
not
Lake Lloyd.
ready.
I'm not putting myself. There are alligators in that thing. I ain't doing it. But I am going to make you swim in Lake Lloyd.
Okay. Anyway,
I'm going to find
I
an
don't
alligator.
think this was I don't think this was start to finish an amazing race. I think it had I think it was a good race, and I think it had a really great ending, really interesting ending, very eventful. But there's some people that are going to be like, nah, you couldn't pass at some parts, or they'll whatever, people are. So that's where I'm coming from on. I don't think it's going to hit 90. I don't know. What do you ready to show your guess?
I have. I thought way too much. I thought way too long about this.
Oh, I didn't at all.
I have put a lot of deliberation and thought into this.
I have 82.5. 82.5.
88.
88%.
Probably overly optimistic.
It seems high, doesn't it?
Good Kansas race, competitive, great finish, popular winner. Say what you will, fans don't like Denny Hamlin. The fact that he lost in the manner he did, I think that's going to resonate a little bit. I'm going to go 88. Yeah.
So you got a popular winner and knocking Denny out of the way. That'll make people happy. I see what you're saying.
Good,
I probably went too low.
People like Kansas too. If you go back and look at the Kansas races, just banged the hell out of my hand. With the exception of the spring race here, Kansas races tend to pull real well. Yeah.
Well, I hope you didn't just take a 3-race lead, because that could be a real problem for me. Come to my stand-up comedy routine at the comedy club in Orlando, everybody.
No. Lake Lloyd, man. Lake Lloyd. I'm gonna be throwing live chickens in the
You're
Lake
not
Lloyd.
agreeing to it.
I'm not agreeing to a comedy set, that's for sure.
Okay. Well, anyway, what else is on your list to talk about from today, or
from Kansas specifically? We talked about Zane Smith and his crash. But dude, like, he turned in another really good run. And again, another run from Zane Smith in a season filled with them where the results don't indicate how well he's running. Front Row Motorsports has had their struggles this year. But Zane has ran very, very well at times. And he was running in the top 10 again today. He's a driver you got to pay attention to. And he is on people's radar. You're going to hear a lot about silly season next year because the number of potential seats that are open up for 27 is ridiculous. He's a guy that is on people's radar. I'm telling you, pay attention to what Zane Smith is doing. Another great run today. Glad to see him walk away.
Well, the Zane Smith thing is really interesting because you go to Front Row and, he had been at Trackhouse, right? And it was like, he's going to be that number 1 draft pick type guy, and was running for Spire, but through Trackhouse, and then gets the boot. And you're like, man, that might be the end of his career. He's going to go to Front Row now. And, he could do okay there, but, can you really make a name for yourself there? Todd Gilliland had been really coming into his own. And I think Zane Smith, especially as you point out, lately has had a lot of speed, looked really good, been very impressive, has been running up with the playoff cars in a lot of cases. So I second that. And certainly, I mean, although it didn't work out for him again for much of today, a lot of this race, you look up there and like Hocevar is like racing hard with these playoff guys. And, he's just there, like you expect it at this point. Like, you're like, well, I mean, if you say, oh, Hocevar's, the top running non-playoff car at times, you're like, yeah, well, it's not even that unusual anymore. So feels like once he puts stuff all together, that'll be a big difference. We do have to say, of course, Brad Keselowski overcame a lot. He had a 1 lap penalty earlier in the race because he took fuel twice when he was the lucky dog, I believe. And so he got a 1 lap penalty and he ends up coming back to finish 8th. And then you have SVG who started the race. Yeah. He started the race with a stop and go penalty, lost his crew chief, lost pit selection, started last, all that stuff, went a lap down at the start of the race along with McDowell, and he ends up finishing top 10, and McDowell finishes 14th. So, it all worked out for them without their crew chiefs and the penalty and everything. But yeah, certainly a big day for SVG, although he and Bowman had a incident there at one point. I guess, I don't know if he was getting squeezed from Byron once Byron had come back into the picture or what, but anyway, what else? Anything else on your list to discuss?
Not specifically related to the race. No.
Okay. What else you got? Yeah. Nice Sam Hunt feature, by the way, Jordan, everybody check that out.
Appreciate that.
Sam Hunt lived out of his van and became a NASCAR Xfinity Series team owner.
Maybe that's the bet. It's the loser has to sleep in like a van for like 3 days at Daytona.
I don't hate that.
Okay. I'm just spitballing. Not like an RV, not a motorhome. I'm talking like a minivan or a sprinter van, that kind of thing.
I mean, do we get to park it in the track or
I'm sure we could somewhere. I mean, why not? And you got to use the shower facilities at the track, that kind of thing.
I mean, you wouldn't have to worry about traffic or driving in. You just wake up.
I mean, I get there early enough anyway. I don't have to worry about it. Not all of us can roll in late like Jeff Gluck. It's okay, it's okay. But I don't have to worry about traffic. So, but yeah, you could sleep there. That's fine.
That sounds really actually very lovely. I don't think that's a punishment at all.
Okay, we'll throw that out then. I'm just spitballing.
By the way, I was talking to somebody today in the garage. I politely keep their identity private because I don't know if you might get mad at them for this suggestion. You suggested taking a Greyhound bus for the loser. Like, I have to take the Greyhound bus from my house to Daytona. And I said it wasn't fair for you because all you'd have to do is take it from Charlotte. But so they said, well, you'd have to take it to like Phoenix.
Or what I said before when we spitballed this, because I agree it's unfair for you because you're in Denver, is you have to fly somewhere that is roughly 8 hours away from Daytona.
That's not even that bad. That's not a bad. Again, for me, you're going to tell if you told my wife that I get to sit on a bus for 8 hours in peace, she'd say, "Can we trade places?"
You're really speaking well of fatherhood here.
With 2 kids?
Yeah,
I mean,
really selling me on the idea of having kids here, Jeff.
Yeah.
So, anyway. So another idea. What I need to do is I need to reach out to your wife, and this is what I'm going to do, I think, and ask her, what is something I can pick that will make Jeff absolutely miserable? What is something?
You're assuming that you're gonna win. Okay.
I'm just trying to come up with ideas here.
All right.
Hypothetically.
Is there anything else you said?
Not from this list. I mean, do you want to talk about some quick news of the week?
Sure. What you got?
New crew chief for Kyle Busch next year. We don't know, but we do know Randall Burnett is leaving Richard Childress Racing. He's going to Trackhouse, where he's going to be the crew chief for Connor Zilic. I think that's a really smart move for Trackhouse. Randall's done a good job. You go back to what Randall did with Tyler Reddick as a rookie, and each and every year they got better. By the second year, they were in the playoffs. By the third year, they're winning 3 races. I think that's a smart move.
Yeah, I'm curious on the Kyle Busch aspect of it. Did try to talk to Kyle Busch this week at the track and wasn't able to get that done. He's not ready to discuss this move yet, apparently. But I'm interested to see where this goes for him. They've been pretty far off recently. They've looked pretty terrible unloading, and something's got to change. So I would hope that they're able to. I still am holding out hope that we see a return to a competitive Kyle Busch, because I think it's good for NASCAR, good for the sport to have him running well, and it's not good to have one of your future Hall of Famers struggling this badly when his career, I don't think he's over the hill yet. I think he can still get it done. So I'm anxious to see him return to competitiveness, and maybe this is the jolt he needs. I don't know.
Yeah, and then the other quick news note: Rodney Childers lost his job with Spire earlier in this year. He's got a new opportunity for next year. He's going to Junior Motorsports, where he'll be the crew chief for their number 1 cars. That will be shared by Carson Quapple and Connor Zillich. Good opportunity for Rodney. Really good opportunity for Rodney to kind of reset a little bit, and I think that's a really, really great fit for him.
Yeah, no, I agree, obviously. And I think what we've seen him do with the late models this year, it's probably helped reignite his passion for that. And just, it's about winning races. So, to me, I think he's going to be pretty fun to watch in Xfinity, where you can still get probably more creative and let your crew chief, be a real crew chief kind of thing, where you can get your hands on the car more than you can in the next gen era, where, Jeff Gordon talking after the race today, talking about, the thousandths that make a difference. And all of a sudden you do one tiny little thing in the next gen car, and it comes to life, or it's way off. Yeah. Right. Like you saw it with Bubba's car today. You saw it with Byron's car today. It's just like these tiny little things, and you really do much. So, I think it'll be cool for Ronnie to get that chance. Yeah. Anything else?
That's all I got.
All right. Well, I did, before we want to go, send some well wishes to the Reddick family. We saw Alexa Reddick posted earlier today about Rookie, who they welcomed in May, having some heart trouble, and I think in the pediatric ICU I saw.
Yep.
Talked to Tyler after the race and said it was a consideration to maybe not race today, but he talked to Alexa and felt like he would be able to do that and still get back in time. So I cannot even imagine, as a parent, finding out one of your kids is having heart trouble, and man, that would be so incredibly tough. And to come, focus on your job and do all these things it's got to be so tough, because your heart is obviously elsewhere, but it's, you got to focus, and you have a whole team that you don't want to let down as well. So Reddick, I think, obviously had a really good race going today. And unfortunate, by the way, that he wasn't able to get the stage points. Because they look like in stage 1, they were going to be really good. And now he goes to the Roval and a must win, but obviously bigger things at play there for that family. So hopefully Rookie, they're able to get some answers there and heal up soon and get the baby healthy. So just wanted to say that before we left.
Absolutely. Second that.
Anyway, the Roval is next week. You'll have Jordan there. And then I'll be at Vegas, and then we're at the last 3 together. Is that right, Jordan?
Yeah, we're the last 3 together, buddy.
Yeah, you'll be sick of me by then for sure.
By then?
All right.
Like I'm not already.
Good point. Good point. All right, everybody. Thanks as always for listening, and we will talk to you next time on The Teardown. See you, everybody.